Carolyn, we appreciate everyone being here today, and delighted to be able to talk to you about what we believe is the most important issue facing our community today, and it has been making sure our schools are properly funded and operate in a way that the outcome of the kids coming out of the high school or out of all of the schools that are prepared for whatever the next step is, whether it's going to middle school, whether it's going to the high school, wherever you're going, you've got to be prepared, whether you're coming out looking for a job. So the focus on that is complete and total, and like Kevin said, unanimous. It's interesting when we were starting to discuss the next step, which is we're hoping that we can create a vote for a special tax district this November. When we started talking about that, some of the folks that are very familiar with running for elections, we were advised it's not really wise to start having a vote or start talking about tax increases during an election campaign. And our group sitting around the table unanimously said, well, if this community doesn't want to support education and willing to abandon the kids, I'm not sure we want to be mayor or council. So it was a unanimous decision to drive forward regardless of the outcome related to the political issues. And that's significantly different than we see in other areas. So I tell you all that just to know the level of commitment that we've got and how important we think this is. I've left each of you have a layout of our plan, and these are for us to talk to you about for really, and for you not to take with you. So I'm asking you now to let you know the rules. These need to stay. This is a work in progress. Every time we talk to a group like this, we change it. And when we get ready to vote and go forward, we will have talked to enough people to have it modified to where it represents exactly what we're going to do. So this is just a work, again, where we are today, and you will see that it's, though there are some in here that have heard this presentation before, you're going to find that this one is in portions significantly different. The content, the outcome's not, but the content is. So the very first page you see, the first thing that we have is the description of the special tax district. And that's where we are right now. The Board of Education is committed at their next meeting to form special tax districts for all 7 feeder patterns that allows each of us to look at a way in our feeder pattern to get involved to help support the schools if we need to. Because it's obvious to anybody looking at this, after the 8 mil referendum failed, the county has no plan to build the majority of the schools that are needed. They've got a $15 million pay-as-you-go program, which won't build a $65 to $75 million complex that we need here. We're the #1 site of unfunded needs, Gulf Shores is. So that being the background, forming a special tax district from Ono to the end of Fort Morgan, that's every child, that's the area where every child goes to school here. A special tax district would allow us to collectively engage, put a 3 mil special district ad valorem tax on all the properties within this deal and vote one vote. Everybody votes one time. Collectively. It's not an Orange Beach vote, a Gulf Shores vote, or a county vote. It is one vote of the special tax district that we would be able to raise the money necessary to do what we need to do. So that's the first step, and that's vitally important to get this going. Additionally, with the board, what we're doing with the Board of Education, forming the special tax district is under process right now. Creating a memorandum of understanding, which is basically a contract of how we work together. Who's going to do what? How do we make sure that we continue to get the flow of money from the state that follows through students? We get everything to us that we're getting now, except we won't get funds for building schools. The county would be able to use that $15 million to build the schools in the rest of the county that's not able to do what we're doing. And you'll see a graph later that shows why it is we're so significantly different than everybody else. All those condominiums on the beach that add to our tax roll, but they don't vote. They don't live here, they don't vote. So that gives us kind of a unique opportunity. The amount of money we collect is 4 or 5 times greater than the closest next tax district. So you'll see a significant difference there. So special tax district is the first issue to talk about. The next page you will see is really a continuation of things you already know, and that is the growth of the community, the population growth of our area, and how dramatic that has gone up over the last several years, and over the last 10 years primarily. Since 2000, we've had 109% growth between 2000 and 2014. So we're exploding in growth, and that, interestingly enough, what we found in looking at this, part of the change that, for those of you who heard it before, is different, that we've seen a decline in growth. The original program was 04 through 14, so we're looking at a 10-year plan of how we grow and what we need for this community in 10 years. That's the 13-14 years. They've just now looked at the 14-15 and 15-16 from population growth in the community, birth rates, all the different attendance in the schools. That has gone down. And so they've had to redraft that graph that shows our growth not being as dramatic as they thought it was going to be earlier on. So you're going to see a little bit difference in the size of the school we think we need to build. But again, I'm getting ahead of myself, but population growth is what I was mentioning there. The growth of our feeder pattern, and this is over the last 10 years, this is 04 to 14. That is the population growth. We've grown 40%. We've 814 students over a 10-year period. That's 81 students a year that we're growing into our feeder pattern, in a feeder pattern that is full. As you know, in Gulf Shores Elementary, we've got all the portables and they're full, and we don't have any room to put any more, and that is a huge problem for us in that context. Next slide shows school enrollment growth, and you will see there what, again, you already know. I am certain that how we're growing in the elementary school, the Orange Beach Elementary, Gulf Shores Middle, and Gulf Shores High over that period of time. And again, that will have ticked down as you look at 2 more years beyond that. The national average for a student-teacher ratio is 15.9 to 1. We are at 19.5 to 1, which is misleading because we've got some classes here, special ed classes that are really small, that bring the average down. I know that currently 17 of the classes at the elementary school have more than 25 students in them, and some of those are in cramped conditions. We've had to share, and again, I'm telling you stuff you already know, we've had to share some classrooms with partition in and put 2 classes in one of our larger classrooms, which is just not acceptable. And at 80 students a year going forward, we have no place to put them. There's no room to put any more portables. So that defines the problem as we know it. The next slide shows the classroom status. And for the 14-15 year, it showed elementary school here needing 24 portables. Well, we've got 11, Julie. So that tells you that there's 13 classrooms of kids that are somewhere sharing with somebody else or cramped together tighter than they should be. And then you look at the 18-19 year projections, that would double. You need 48 here on that rate ratio, and with no room to put 11. That's just totally unacceptable. And if you look on what that's 77 needed in that 18-19 year throughout our Gulf Shores campus, which is not, and it even shows Orange Beach Elementary on this graph needing 6 additional classrooms, and we'll address that in just a minute. The next page shows, and this is where those of you that see before are going to see a significant. The next page shows the concept of building what is projected going forward on the new numbers that I don't have to share. I have copies of that on the graph here. But that shows it going down to where instead of needing, what we originally needed was a 1,599 student high school. That projection now is right just over 1,000. That's how much the downtick has changed when you run that graph further out, another 10 years out. When the slope starts down, you continue the graph out, it goes down. And we don't believe that's really going to happen but I don't think it's pertinent for us to start building a 1,600 person high school when we're really projecting right now we only need 11. So we've priced out 1,400 student classrooms. That costs $57 million to build. That gives their numbers some growth potential, and what we truly believe when we get this done and we get this announced, that the growth, that it's going to go back up. The single-family housing starts in Gulf Shores are exceeding any imagined record we've ever had. We've had more in the first quarter, almost as many in the first quarter as we did in the full year 2 years ago. So you're seeing single-family growth. You see a lot of the new subdivisions being built, and that's different here than it is in Orange Beach. Orange Beach is growing, but they're growing primarily in rental units and condominiums that aren't permanent homestead with families raising kids. So you're seeing a significant growth in Gulf Shores, and we expect that to continue. The Orange Beach Middle School, looking at their projections, they've got a desire to, Orange Beach does, to keep their students there and form a K through 8 school. And whether that's advisable for the middle school or not is not our decision. That's Orange Beach's desire that they want to put into this program. And we desperately need Orange Beach involved with us. We can't do this without them. And they're not on board with this yet, but they are very much listening and interested in, Tony is still he's got to be convinced that this is something the community wants. But we've got several of their council people that are very much lining up and wanting to know more about this. And we'll be able to talk to them. All the meetings that we've had so far, this is probably our 5th one, are with Gulf Shores residents only, with some Fort Morgan participation. In talking with Tony about, and he and I as 2 mayors are discussing issues that were important to our community, he was really concerned about bridges and traffic and how it's affecting Orange Beach, and wanted me to help him with that, which I agreed to do. But I told him, with Tony in my community, I've got to work on schools. And I know, Tony, you don't really want to talk about that right now, and y'all know what they went through in the recent attempt to form a city school. He didn't want to dig that back up yet, and I said, well, you don't want to, I have to. But I will help you with just to understand what I'm talking about. So every time I've done one of these packets that I've been giving out and taking up, I've taken one to Tony. So Tony won't get caught with any questions about what's going on and not at least know what I'm telling you. So we've developed that relationship, and I think my personal opinion is, Tony hasn't told me this, but this is just what I think, is that he's just gauging the current, and if his community gets behind this and wants schools, he'll be for it. And we got a deadline to figure that out. So we factored in Orange Beach Middle School, which is K through 8, and we're moving the Orange Beach students there. And then we factored, obviously, when the high school moves out, the middle school can move over to the high school, and the elementary school can occupy both these buildings, can occupy the middle school and this, whatever they need and how much they need. And that is about almost a $3 million expense there to renovate those to make sure they're acceptable for everybody to have enough room. And we do that, we've taken care of everything that we need. Well, the funding of that is annual debt service is about $3.4 million a year. We collect 5.5. We collect $5.5 million in this tax district last year. Our last tax district sent out bills for tax bills, ad valorem tax, sent out bills for $5.5 million. So you see, we've got a significant spread, and in doing that, the county, when they did these projections for the 8 mil, they had a separate slide that Gulf Shores growth was such that in 7 to 10 years they're going to need another school. So what we don't want to have to do is go back to the people and vote again. We want to get enough money in this bond issue and manage it correctly where we don't have to do this again. We don't want to have to go back and vote again. So we intend to put $1 million a year at a minimum into a fund for future reserves to build schools as needed, whatever that is. And it could be the original projection, we need another elementary school. It may be that we need a freestanding middle school, which is again catering to what Orange Beach would like to see, is a freestanding middle school in Orange Beach. And it doesn't matter to me where, with all our middle school kids together, but located in the Orange Beach community, and that's fair. We get the high school in our community, and they get the middle school there. That's kind of the projected, what I think we'll end up at the bottom line, putting on the board as a final plan that we will, in the future, when needed, build a middle school as designed in Orange Beach to fit the total middle school needs, and that allows plenty of room here for growth and expansion. Julie, I just don't know how big you want one elementary school to be.
I would like to demolish some of the buildings.
Well,
So that'd be just fine.
Well, we certainly have the older building here that Carolyn was.
Yeah.
Carolyn, you did a good job, by the way. I think my wife was with her in that first PTA program. But that school, certainly, where there's a pre-K program we'd like to see here, that in expanded opportunities. And if we don't need that building, then we can turn it into something else.
That's right.
So, but again, I think that we've got a good plan there. That gives you some understanding of what we're talking about there. If we put $1 million away, we've got $671,000 per year for education enhancements. Some of that is going to be locally funded teacher units. Because if we start building more classrooms, we're not going to get a lot of teachers. So we're new teachers to fill them up. So we're going to have to be prepared to make that expense, cover that expense, but also add programs like pre-K and add some graduate level programs that are a little bit more diverse. Again, focusing on outcome, we want our graduating students to be prepared for life, and that may mean that we need more educational, vocational training for those that want to come out and go to work. We've got, obviously, we'll continue to focus on this dual enrollment program, which is now free at Faulkner. Faulkner, there'll be no tuition requirement next year going forward for a dual enrollment program. And if you take the dual enrollment program and you can graduate from high school almost ready to go to college as a sophomore. So tremendous opportunities there for that program. So adding that money to create those type of opportunities and make sure the outcome of every child that graduates from whatever school, they're ready for the next one. If they graduate from high school, they're ready for life. They're life ready, whether that's a 4-year degree or a 2-year degree or go to work. And we really need to focus on that. And every kid that comes out of our program has to be ready, better than they are, or as good as anybody. And that's we feel like that's our responsibility. We're really interested in that. What does that mean to you? The next sheet of paper, you will see right now that the average cost of a home, median price of cost of a home in Gulf Shores that is homesteaded is $231,000. That's a $69 a year tax increase. $69 a year is what you would pay to have this program on our community, and I equate that to a dinner out. In Orange Beach, the average price for the waterfront properties is $341. That's $103 a year. That's not a dinner out with wine. That's the way I live in my family. But so I think it puts it in perspective that this should be easy for our voters to understand how this affects me. Now, our voters are broad. We've got a lot of voters that don't have kids and have no connection to the school and don't really even understand why this school is important because they've not lived here, they have no connection. They've moved here. Our goal is to convince them that this is their responsibility. The majority of those are just like me. Went to a public school and someone else paid for my education. I didn't have to pay anything for high school. My kids both graduated from public schools. I didn't pay anything for them. And so the same people that are disinclined to vote for because they don't have any kids, I hope to be able to compel them to understand this is a reasonable deal, but it is also your responsibility to take care of them, just like somebody took care of you. And we believe that that is a story that we can sell. We've tested it with a lot of the local retirees. Now, in fairness, we've invited the choir to come. So we're singing with the choir, I guess is what I'm saying. The people we've talked to are basically, the ones that we brought in are ones that we assume would be supportive of this. And they have been unanimously supportive. We haven't had a negative, anyone stand up and say no in any meeting we've had. We probably talked to over 250 people so far. But again, my feel is if these folks aren't in for it, that we know should vote for it, then we need to come up with another plan. But they're in favor of it, so that gives us the momentum to move forward, and we'll continue to do more of these. The timing is the biggest issue we have. Timing meaning that if we want to be on this November election, if you look at those 18-19 projections, the growth of these schools by the 18-19 year, if we want to have schools available, we need to start construction early in 17. It's an 18-month construction cycle. We're already working to design preliminarily with the county what the school should look like. They know how many square feet we need for each student. We've got some budgets on that. So we're already getting, but for us to start in 17, we've got to vote on it in this November, the November election. It's a federal election. So to get on the ballot, you have to have your name on there 90 days prior to the election. And that is, our deadline is August 1st. We have to commit as a community to be on the ballot. And then you get on the ballot, you vote in November, and assuming that, but we've got time to sell the vote. Our shortfall, our issue is trying to get our community together and make sure everybody in the community is willing to step up, because what it will require, the school board will have to petition the county commission to put it on the ballot. The county commission has basically said they need a resolution from the Orange Beach and Gulf Shores Councils. If you can get an Orange Beach and Gulf Shores Council to do a resolution supporting, putting it on the ballot, they'll put it on the ballot. Tim Russell, our probate judge, is the one that is giving me the rules. And I just want to say, we've got a way to get there. It's just what we've got between now and August 1st. We've got to get our entire community on board. We've got to make sure that our community, like yourselves, understand what we're doing and why we're doing it, so that you can get involved and help us. From August to November, we can sell the vote with help. Best way I know to sell the vote is for you to help me. For you to, after we get this thing on the ballot, you invite your friends and your neighbors to your house, and Carolyn or I or somebody from this will come talk to you, or we'll give you a video that you can play without us having to talk to you. But this is going to be personal. It's going to be reaching out and talking to people, your neighbors, and make sure everybody understands you got to vote. If you're not registered, go register, because we've got to get people to vote. That's been our big issue. We've had parents of kids in the school that did not vote. We've had teachers that did not vote. So what we have to do is collectively embrace this as being something that you think is important as I do. If you think it's important as I do, then you will be doing this like I am to make sure that we've got people going to the polls. If you got to pick them up and take them, you take them, as long as they vote yes. If you're voting no, don't give them a right. That's what they teach you all. I'm not sure how others do it. I've got a couple other things that I want to mention to you. The next page that you'll see is your, when I talked about the revenue generated by a 3 mil special district tax, you look at where we are there, and the borrowing capacity, we can borrow $79 million a year on this program. We've got about a $68 million cost program, which gives us the extra flow for the other monies. But you see what the other tax districts, the closest to us is really Fairhope. Fairhope and Foley both have about a fourth of what we have. So we're blessed. I mean, we have to deal with a lot of traffic, and we have to deal with a lot of issues being in a rental, in a lot of vacationers in town, and we get pretty busy from time. But the value that we get from that is what they do in the community that allows us to do things like this. It allows you that live here to have, in Gulf Shores and Orange Beach, the best fire paramedic program you can possibly have, to have the right kind of recreational facilities at a reasonable cost. So we have to deal with a lot, but we get a lot. And that's the important part of understanding, particularly as it relates to education. The next graph I want you to look at is this. This is kind of gives you an explanation of the campus opportunity. What we've been able to do at the City of Gulf Shores is we've acquired over 200 acres south of County Road 8 along the Foley Beach Express. If you remember during the BP Olson oil spill, the very corner there was occupied by BP parking, all their cleaning equipment there. That is where we plan to build the high school, on that piece of property. Across the Foley Beach Express to the east is Orange Beach city limits. On our side of the Foley Beach Express is Gulf Shores. So it's as close as we can have to having a consolidated campus that straddles each city. And Orange Beach has agreed that this makes sense to them. We've got 200 acres there, and what we've been discussing in this campus plan is a high school being located on that corner, the northern corner of that, right adjacent to County Road 8. We've been working with Faulkner State Community College about if you think about where they are, they're landlocked. They can't go to the west because it's wet. They can't go to the east of 59. Privately owned property north and south of them, they can't grow. And if you've been paying attention to what Faulkner's doing, combining with other, would be more the regional community college, combining with others, they're going to grow. They need to grow. They want to build a wing adjacent to our high school for dual enrollment. Not necessarily. They will be in that area south of the lake that you see there where it says Alabama Gulf Coast Center for Higher Education. That's where Faulkner would be, in that area. So they're separated by a lake. They're not on the campus with the high school, but they're where you don't have to get in your car to go to dual enrollment. Or the teachers that are from Faulkner that are going to teach dual enrollment don't have to get in their car to come to us. So we think that, we know that we've got a partner there. They're like everyone else, like we are. They're struggling for capital to build it, but they're committed to come here, and we've got to help them come up with a financing plan, which we know what we want to do there. We also have been working with the University of South Alabama. They're interested in having some location here in some way to offer the last 2 years of specific degrees here. And it probably will be online. It won't necessarily be a teacher in a classroom, but it may be. They know that they want to be here. University of Alabama wants to be here, but this is South Alabama's district. So Joe Bonner and Miller Bichon, who is the head of that college that would be here, they're very much on the table. We want to show up. We want to be part of this, and that really is pushing South Alabama to stake the claim that they need to have and want to have. So we think we've got a chance to get that down the road. But go to the next map, which is not as specific, but it shows you, again, maybe a little bit better, the roadway structure, what we're working on to build our roads through there. But north of County Road 8, on property not currently owned by the city, we've got a university that you will all recognize when I'm able to talk about it, but they're offering a postgraduate degree, want to offer a postgraduate degree program on that property. We have put that for them under option to purchase, and their next board meeting, which will be in June, they will be making a commitment to do this here. And I've already been up there, I've been to one of their board meetings, met the president, and when I was leaving, he said, don't let that site get away. We're coming to Gulf Shores. So, but again, they haven't voted on it yet, but now that just kind of gives you a glimpse of what we can create as far as education as an economic asset to our community. Right now, we're one trick pony, especially in Gulf Shores. All we have is a beach. We don't have any type of economic interest here other than tourism and tourism on the beach. Orange Beach and Destin, Fort Walton, and others, they have tourism on the beach. Then they have back bays. We don't have back bays. We've got the waterway district. We've got the intercoastal canal. I can't call it canal anymore. Marketing doesn't like that. So it's not a canal, it's a waterway. So, but you've seen us develop the waterway district on the south side of the road with Acme, and we're working on other projects there. We are working now on going on the north side from Lulu's going east. That roadway basically dead ends at the Maricultural Center, and there's a large expanse of developable property to the east of that. We're working with that group to get a roadway, and with Aldott to get a roadway from there all the way back up to the Foley Beach Express. And that is in works, and we've applied for a grant to get money from the federal government, a tax grant for that, and we applied for it last year with these same folks. With us, it's a 50-50 match. You got to match it. But the primary TIGER stands for Transportation Infrastructure Generating Economic Recovery. And so the economic recovery is a fact you've got to show. Well, we got almost 300 acres on the canal down there, excuse me, the waterway down there, that has several marinas already permitted in it. That would be a dramatic asset to the community, to us, that diversifies our economy off the beach to the waterway additionally. So a lot of moving parts, a lot of things in play here, but nothing's more important for us than to try to get this put together and project. I think I've got, did I put graphs in there? So you show the graphs, and this is what I'm going to tell you. Angie Swagger sent me, and Angie's very much on board with this whole deal, very helpful in this. She sent me, what we got information that were last Friday, that reduced the high school projection from 1,599 to right at 1,000. So that really threw me for a loop. Well, what's going on? Why are we just now getting that? They explained to me, and this graph shows you how they projected. At least you see the birth rates, and the birth rates it took a dip in Gulf Shores. It's back down to what the moving average is. But in Orange Beach, you look at what's going there, it's declining. And again, I think that's related a lot to the fact that the residential growth just hasn't grown like ours has. And we've got the D.R. Horton programs that are building throughout our city on the northern end. You see a lot of that. So a lot of affordable housing for families to move to. And we really believe dramatically so that when we get this state-of-the-art education, get this campus announced under construction, and they see not only that we've got a plan to build facilities, but we're keeping our teachers. We're not going to a city school system. we've decided that that's not something that the community wants. And I'll tell you, to be honest with you, as mayor and council, Carolyn, the last thing we need to do in this city is be managing education. If that's a challenge later on top of everything else we've got to deal with, I have no desire to be managing a school education. So not when we've got the potential for the county to continue doing what they're doing and we keep our teachers here. And that's really important. So no discussion on our part about withdrawing from the county, which really makes it good for the county. Not only does the county get from us money that we don't need to build schools so they can continue to grow, I believe when we do this, I can't imagine Fairhope, Daphne, Spanish Fork, Foley sitting back and saying, we're going to let Gulf Shores get that far ahead of us, because there's no plan to build their schools either. And so I believe others will do this, and what it does is it takes responsibilities for building away from the county, but it doesn't pull students out of the county. It doesn't shrink their responsibility. We don't have people withdrawing and pulling out like we tried to 10, 12 years ago with Orange Beach. We had a vote to form a joint city school system. That failed. Orange Beach just recently tried. That failed. Not going to beat our head against that wall. But others are going to try to do something similar to this. And what the county gets out of that is money to build the other schools. They keep the education requirement, and they get an endorsement. An endorsement by us. In light of this, they got beat up pretty bad in this last referendum. When we announced we as a community want to build our schools, and we don't just accept, we want the county to educate our kids because they do a good job. We do that, now that really is a shot in the arm that they need, that the county needs some type of endorsement, and we think we've got the perfect position to give them that. And that also allows them to really work toward us to make this plan work for us. There's a big incentives all the way around to make this happen. Angie gave me this, and my answer, what's going on with the change in numbers? Why do these numbers go down dramatically? And I'm going to read you a paragraph. I don't want to hand this out because I got permission to hand out the graph. Gulf Shores Elementary will continue to grow while Orange Beach numbers will remain stable or slightly decline because of current demographics. Angie thinks that Gulf Shores numbers have dipped to our normal transient enrollment plus the spotlight Gulf Shores has had due to overcrowding. Once that situation is corrected, I think numbers will start to increase rapidly. Orange Beach simply does not have the primary home neighborhoods that Gulf Shores has, and they do not have the vacant land for subdivision starts that we have. I think it's also significant to talk about our middle school. I mean, there was a previous reputation related to our middle school that wasn't as good as it is now. And so we see numbers that drop off, particularly from Orange Beach, where they go to the elementary school and they come back to high school. But I think there was a misconception, or maybe accurate at that time. But today, what Kyle is doing over there, we're seeing that dramatically improve. So we're very comfortable that we've got the right people in the right place. And Kyle, I'm not just saying that because you're here. I'm saying that because you're doing it. So keep it up. So again, it's important for us for me particularly, not to get a little bit so concerned that I've got to adapt on the run and change my stories, because why did this happen? I think there's reasons why the downturn happened, and I think that it's also obvious that it gives us more opportunity to expand and grow because of that. So, Carolyn, anything that I forgot? I'm opening up for questions, all right?